The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And this week, I'm lucky enough to sit down with Emmanuel Probst, Global Lead of Brand Thought Leadership at Ipsos, one of the world's largest research firms. We dig into a lot of subjects today, like the importance of market research, forming consumer perceptions, and culture. We also break down Emmanuel's new book, Assemblage, and its core motif of transformation, and how brands transform ourselves, the worlds around us, and the world at large. So be sure to tune in and soak up some of Emmanuel's wisdom. I'm Cooper Colvig, and I'll be your host this week. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Emmanuel, welcome to the Breaking and Entering show. I appreciate you jumping on and talking about your new book and what you have going on with me.
Cooper, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's really great to connect with you today. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always start the show off with your breaking and entering story. And I know you have a bit of an interesting history, and I'd love to understand how you found marketing and what's kept you there.
Yeah, as a teenager, I was always fascinated with pictures, with visual literacy, if you will. I would decorate my bedroom with ads for luxury brands. And fast tracking to when I arrived in the UK, I needed a job when I was studying for my MBA. To be blunt, I needed the cash coming. And I got hired at a market research to oversee a team at a call center. And I thought it was fascinating to listen to people and decipher why do people do what they do. And that's the part that hasn't changed. So my breaking and entering is very unromantic. I needed money and I needed a flexible job. And that's what I could do there. I could work early in the morning, on weekends, and late at night. And
So when you were doing your MBA, did you
correct.
did you have like marketing as a core piece of business that you'd want to go into from there, or were you
Yeah.
figuring out as you went?
No, that's a good point. I knew that I wanted to be in marketing, advertising, market research. I was very conscious of the fact that my classmates who will go into investment banking, private equity, and things like this, frankly, will end up making way more money than I. I was after, and to this day, I have not changed. What was compelling to me is to discover new ideas, to understand new things, to meet new people. And so I've always been chasing the discovery, the fulfillment, more so than the money, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So to that point, was that always your goal, and what kind of brought you to where you wanted to start contributing work that would help develop the marketing and branding world, whether that's brand hacks, assemblage,
Yeah.
or even teaching?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that, so I was reading a lot and I was reading as widely as I could from different sources. And that's how I started forming my own opinions, if you will. And also, I think that it's fine challenging or supporting the work that someone else publishes. And frankly, it makes it a lot more robust if you have your own opinion and if you come to the table with your own material. So simply put, I wanted to have a voice, and I only voiced my opinions and my findings once I had something to say. I probably spent 7, 8, 9 years absorbing, learning, reading, and I was shy to publish initially. But once I got started and once my ideas got some traction, well, I never stopped. And to this day, I publish content several times a week, right? beyond my books. But what hasn't changed and what feels really important to me is to always keep learning, always stay humble, and look at what works and what doesn't, and learn from new people. And some of my mentors, if you will, yeah, sure, 25 years experience, they've published 15 books. That's great. That said, I like to learn. I was yesterday on a podcast with a someone who runs an independent graphic design studio and talks to a community of independent graphic designers. And I learned so much from that interaction. And that lady is, probably 5 to 7 years marketing experience. And she's at a much earlier stage in her career, if you will. I learned just as much as I would from someone who's been in the industry 25 years with 12 books published.
Yeah, I think that's a common piece to what I think makes a lot of the best marketers and advertisers. And I was talking about this with Marcus Collins as well, but it's the curiosity, the desire to keep learning and never stopping, not keeping yourself from going down the rabbit hole and always finding new pathways to continue to keep trying learning, no matter if you're 4 years in the industry like me or well into your career in the global lead of thought leadership at one of the world's largest market research firms. It's definitely super inspiring even to see from my side.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
what's really super exciting about our industry. As you said, it's learning and meeting new people.
so when I was coming into the world, and I had this idea of the of going to an ad agency. An ad agency was my first big goal. And I don't think I had realized at the time that you have agencies that specialize, and not even just ad agencies. Then you
Mhm.
have marketing firms that specialize in different areas of the practice. And one of which is one that you can go incredibly deep on is market research, and that's where you first broke in. Can you, break down the core importance of market research? Because one thing I hear and see a lot is
Mhm.
folks trying to explain the importance of it and why being market oriented is important, and that it can go much deeper than just finding an insight.
Well, I'll go one step further and I'll tell you why market research is even more important today than 5 years ago, even more relevant today than 5 to 7 years ago. Market research is important because it enables you, one, to detect what people, and I'm not saying consumers, what people are trying to achieve. So it supports your vision in terms of what brands and what products you should develop to meet people on their own term. Next, market research is important to help you quantify, clarify, confirm how many new products you should start and how much you can charge for these products and how big the market is. So it has this function to confirm, quantify, clarify. The third reason is to mitigate risk. What I mean by this is when you walk out of a research process, I cannot guarantee to you that your product, your brand is going to win. However, we help mitigate risk and we help prevent disasters. We position you for success. We support your upcoming success. Now, the market research function is more relevant, more important today than when I started, and here's why. Almost 20 years ago, you would go to, let's say, someone like General Mills or Unilever or P&G, pick any, and market research will operate in a very different department, in a silo. And they will deal with internal clients. So Cheerios will go to market research department to ask, how do you think we should do a strawberry flavored Cheerios, right? Also, market research was really slow, whereby You'd benchmark brands and products, but you'd do so with 3-4 months delay. Fast tracking to today, in most organizations, the market research function is really plugged in with the marketing function and with the other metrics marketers get. I'm thinking about the lower funnel metrics, the click-through data, the conversion rates, anything that you will get from your online activity. Also, market research no longer just measures in hindsight, but also has the ability to predict and optimize your success, whereby we can project market shares, we can project a potential for a specific product, we can project the impact of specific events on your brand and on your product, and we can help optimize marketing and advertising investments by saying, well, you should invest more on TikTok, for example, and less on Snapchat, and you should sequence outdoor advertising with TikTok instead of outdoor advertising with TV. I'm just making things up here. It's to illustrate that market research is no longer about just measurement in hindsight. It is also about predicting and optimizing in the future.
Yeah, and you mentioned how, at least as I understood it in my early education, is that within that measurement, it was largely performance based, and how you got the
Mhm.
performance specialized piece to what agencies or functions even internally have. But now even brand and upper funnel pieces, not
Yeah.
just the lower funnel, are also a major. They have major metrics and KPIs that you can track to. Then they're often more long term, but that page is starting to flip where now you have to have a balance of the two.
And to build on what you're saying, Cooper, this debate between performance versus brand is getting slightly frustrating, not to say annoying. And here's why. So you can do some performance advertising and you'll drive traffic and revenue straight away. Yet while doing so, you're not building a brand. And by the same token, if you were to do only brand advertising, you're building saliency and distinctiveness and differentiation and top of mind awareness and all those good things. Yet in and of itself, you may not necessarily move product, or you will, but not as immediately as you would with performance advertising. And at the end of the day, there is a way to do both at the same time. And that's where the power of the creative, right? That's where the creative idea has to be strong. There are ways and there are campaigns that can drive both when done properly. So I'm advocating and hoping for more campaigns that integrate both brand and performance at the same time.
And that's everything that even I'm reading now too. When you kind of take with a grain of salt everything from both camps, the people who are down the middle, and recognize the importance of having long term brand growth with short term activation, is
Mhm.
grabbing immediate demand. Like it seems almost just logical at that point, and it's not worth digging your heels in and on one side or the other. And if you happen to be at an agency or looking at agencies that are one side or the other, you just know what part you play within that system. And think, to the point of all the market research, and now that we do have the tools and are going to continue to have more studies and papers and work like Assemblage that's coming out, it all just provides more clarity on the marketing industry that didn't have a ton of clarity even before, which is where I think your
Indeed.
work is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the reason why a lot of people love the performance marketing activation and performance metrics is because they feel instantaneous. They're easier to understand. They feel very actionable. And as such, they fulfill your need for instant gratification. But when I say this, it's not negative. It's not, I don't mean this in a condescending way. when I say instant gratification, that's not because of the planner as an individual, but that's because your boss and your client are asking for that. So I get it. I understand why people engage in that. I'm saying, however, that by the same token, the reason why so many DTC firms, for example, are struggling today is exactly for that reason. Whereby it's easy to drive traffic to your website tonight and this weekend and on Monday. It's much harder to solidify your customer lifetime value, your recency frequency purchase, and to generate repeat and profitable business. So that just illustrates why performance marketing makes complete sense, yet cannot operate in isolation from brand building, or else you don't have a brand. Therefore, you don't have a premium and you don't have a customer base 6 months, 9 months, 2 years down the line.
So with that and that that clarity that you've built around the two topics, and like we were saying, it's just very logical at that point. You have to have an approach that goes across both, and the percentage of tactics that sits on one side or the other is going to be different. Whether you're B2B, D2C doesn't necessarily matter. That's where then you need to have clarity on your industry and your market to make those decisions. And jumping back into the lack of clarity that's in the marketing world is it often feels like we don't have a common language. We have a lot of the same terms. We're looking at the same list of terms that we all have, like brand or strategy or insight or creative, but to everyone, they mean different things. And they're used differently by everyone, whether that's just in the US or even outside.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about assemblage, can you break it down into its most basic pieces so that it's one of those words and terms that uh, can't be confused?
Yeah, an assemblage, the terminology is inspired from winemaking, whereby when one makes a cognac or a brandy or wine or champagne or bourbon or whiskey, you do so by combining samples from a wide range of methods and barrels and grapes and aging processes. And the winemaker picks and chooses from dozens, sometimes hundreds of samples to create a product that's going to be unique and distinctive. And now, what's very important here is the winemaker does not only create a product for today, the winemaker has a vision for what the product is going to become, for how the product is going to age within the next 2, 5, 7 years. And I contend that brand strategists will operate in the exact same way. So assemblage is a metaphor inspired from winemaking to prompt the reader, to prompt people to build brands exactly that way. Build brands by assembling from a wide range of personal, cultural, social attributes and have a vision for what the brand is going to become. Create brands that are transformative for people, whereby the brand just doesn't only sell products, the brand must also transform you and the world you live in as a consumer. That's what an assemblage is about.
So when we're talking about lots of the marketing concepts that are making their way to the main stage right now, like
Mhm.
distinctive assets and culture and long-term brand, short-term activation and market orientation. Um, to me, it seems like even when you're just thinking about the different concepts you can use to solve consumer problems for your brand or company, that um, using assemblage and the thought process within your book is to grab the things that are meaningful to that situation and blend them together in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah, everything, all those methods, tools you quoted, they're all relevant. And that said, they're also um, boardroom conversations or debates at industry conferences. For example, that so-called debate between differentiation and distinctiveness. That's one. Or we just spoke about another debate that's performance versus brand. That's another one. Look, all this is great and relevant. I'm prompting marketing professionals at all levels to take a step back and step out of the boardroom, close the lid of the laptop, and understand what are people, and again, I insist on this term people, not consumers. What are people trying to do? What are people trying to achieve? What is meaningful and fulfilling to them? That's because very few brands command uh, dedication and fascination from consumers, meaning most people don't care about most brands, right? 75%, I think 74% of brands will disappear tomorrow and people will replace them straight away. I hate to say that, that's another way in which marketers are skewed. They know so much more about their brand and they're so much more enthusiastic than 99.98% of their consumers. And what people are trying to do is not to buy more products and more brands. People are trying to go from who they are to who they want to become. And as such, the hero is the consumer. The hero is the individual, not the brand. And the brand is here in a supporting role to take people from who they are to who they want to become, to facilitate this personal transformation. That's what the brand needs to do. So not only am I not battling the concepts we discussed, distinctiveness, differentiation, and performance, and all that, they're all very useful. I'm saying, however, let's approach brand building and product development with a people-first approach, more so than with some geeky, heated debates on some industry practices that are all relevant but come second.
So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's sounding like if I'm a strategist or market researcher at any sort of firm and we're building our story, our deck, or however we're presenting the story, that the consumer, the person whose problem we're trying to solve with our product or service is always going to be the hero, and the brand is the guide that they meet along the hero's journey.
Exactly.
If you're using that stereotypical piece after we've,
Yeah.
and if you don't understand the people or the problem, then you can almost be a guide for nothing, for no one.
At 100%. That's your overarching thinking. And if you're a strategist at any level, my recommendation, if I may, is to walk into that boardroom with some different quirky ideas and some input on culture, on societal debates, on personal transformation, and of course, importantly, how can the brand support all this? More so than getting into those heated debates on distinctiveness versus differentiation. I think I'm going to put it really bluntly for you, Cooper. If you're a strategist at any level and you want to look smart in the room with your boss, with your associates, and with your clients, you walk in with those ideas from Assemblage and you stay put on the debate of the day that might be performance versus brand or differentiation versus distinctiveness.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a huge and great way, I think, to think about it. Whether you're the strategist trying to bring value to your client, or if you're thinking about it from the consumer's point of view, you're using an assemblage to either arm yourselves to do what's best for the brand, which then trickles its way all the way down to the people and the hopefully one day consumers. The major motif throughout the book, and you have a few sections of it, but is transformation.
Mhm.
How do you break down transformation and assemblage, and similarly to um, understanding the term assemblage, what does transformation look like, and how can we define that in the way that it can't be confused?
Oh, yeah. Brands can no longer just sell products. Brands must also transform us, people, and the world we live in. It's not good enough to sell bleach. You also have to empower people using the bleach to use your product to protect their family and take care of the elderly and contribute to the local community because they use the same bleach at the hospital in your community. So that's how a brand like Clorox goes beyond selling bleach by saying my product is going to help you keeping your family safe and taking care of your grandmother and cleaning the hospital next door. Transformation means the brand needs to transform me, my world, and the world. And when I say me, it's of course the individual. It's not me, Emmanuel Probst. It's to say, take me from who I am to who I want to become. Make me the hero. Um, that has to do with what I describe as your personal identity project. Your personal identity project, again, is who do you want to become? Who do you want to be perceived at? Who do you want to be? And that's where the brand can have a positive impact on this personal identity project. And the same reasonings applies to your local community. How can the brand make an impact on the world around me, my friends and family, my local community? And the last one is the world at large. And that has to do with sustainability, ESG, circular economy, upcycling, recycling, and so on and so forth. Uh, Also providing people with new skills. If you think of a brand like Google or Microsoft, yeah, of course they sell software and hardware as they should. That's how they make tons of money. That's fine. They go beyond that though. They train people, they equip people with new digital skills on how to do commerce online, on how to drive traffic to your website and your store, on how to understand and leverage analytics, on how to leverage artificial intelligence. And these brands also have a role, therefore, to educate. And of course, they sell products at the back end. There is nothing wrong with this. We're in business. We're here to make a profit. However, it's an illustration of brands that go beyond just selling products and making a positive impact on people. And we see at Ipsos in our studies across verticals. I was talking about tech, but it applies in so many verticals, across verticals, that this positive contribution to society and to individuals, it goes a very, very, very long way in terms of brand preference and loyalty to the brand in the long run.
Interesting. So you talked about a piece that is super interesting to me, and I don't think is discussed enough, but is the concept of perception, and a lot of the ways that concept has been presented to me, or how I hear it discussed is, well, how are the people going to perceive our brand? Not how is someone hoping to be perceived by using our brand, or how are they building their own life um, using our brand as a part of it. Liquid Death is obviously
Mm.
talked about so much, but a great example of a brand that knows how people are trying to build their perception based on their own brand. I'd love for you to break that down in more depth.
Yeah. Cooper, you're referring to a chapter in the book that's called Perception is the Truth. And I feel that that chapter is, well, obviously I love all the chapters, but this one is very important. And what this chapter is about is to say we individuals, we construct our own truths based on our perception of the world and based on the information we are exposed to And in a way, we construct our own truths based on what we want the truth to be. And in this chapter, all politics aside, of course, there is a deep dive into why do fake news do so well? How do fake news catch on? And what we see is fake news, in fact, reinforce people's beliefs in whatever they're being told. So that's the consumer psychology angle, if you will. In marketing, as applied to marketing, what really matters the most is how people perceive the brand, not what the brand and the product really are. In other words, if I want to be provocative, we don't care about the truth. I mean, we do because we don't want to make false claims. But the truth doesn't matter. What matters is the perception of the brand. And in so many categories, the product in and of itself is not differentiated anyway. Make no mistake. It's all about the brand. Try to think about light beer. Have at it to tell me the difference between Miller Lite, Coors Light, and Bud Light in a blind test. Think of the vodka category. Have at it in a blind test to tell me the difference between Absolut versus Grey Goose versus Belvedere versus New Amsterdam. Go to toothpaste, Sensodyne versus Colgate, anyone? Go to household items. Tell me the difference between Clorox versus Target's Up and Up, and so on and so forth. The point being that the role of the marketer and the brand strategist is to create, grow, maintain a perception for the brand in terms of what the brand stands for and what are the attributes, the shortcuts that people must associate with the brand. That's where the real talent is. And that's why marketing is so important.
You've talked about, how how we transform ourselves using brands. How does that then change the next level of the world around us? And is there a connection between, our personal perceptions and then the greater collective perception of our cultures, or how does it diffuse outward from just ourselves?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good time for marketers, whereby there is an opportunity for brands to make a positive impact. And what I mean by this, marketers are no longer just the bad guys selling cigarettes and alcohol. Marketers, as we illustrated prior, can also educate people with new skills and can also help transform people from who they are to who they want to become. So as such, I think that marketing, branding, products, and consumption, as counterintuitive as this may sound, and really have an opportunity to make the world a better place. Now, to use your expression, how does this translate outward? Well, we'll go back to the tech firms, whereby Microsoft or Google can teach me how to use AI. They can also make a positive impact in the world at large through their ESG programs and through their sustainability programs. And they also make a tangible positive impact on the economy because they provide my local community, meaning the coffee shop next door, with tools to drive business. And frankly, in some cases, with tools to keep people in business. So Google is an example of a brand that's going to contribute to all three, me, my world, and the world. That's not to say that all brands have to contribute to all three. That's to say that brands have an opportunity to contribute across those three pillars: personal, social, and the world at large. And by doing so, they build not only awareness, but preference, brand desire, and loyalty in the long run.
Is it necessary to hit all three of those stages,
It,
ourselves, socially, and the world around us, or are brands that just hit certain rungs, and what does that look like?
yeah, it's not necessary. So that's another, I feel, mistake that we often make in marketing. You want to pile up a bunch of buzzwords and you feel that you have to jump on the bandwagon. Purpose was one, like, do all brands need to have a purpose? No, I don't think so. I think that some brands are built around purpose. I think that some brands can get on board with a purpose. And I think that some brands can just stay away from it. Uh, Same thing in what you're saying. Do all brands need to have a clear sustainability manifesto? Well, not necessarily. It depends in what industry you're in. And so what I'm saying is you pick and choose where you want to contribute and how you contribute. So the short answer to your question is I think it is necessary for brands to go beyond just selling products and to facilitate a form of transformation. That said, not all brands have to do all of the above. In fact, I don't think they should. Pick your poison, right? That's what I would say.
And then that's where we tie back to what we were discussing in the beginning, right? Where you can't make those decisions. You can't choose whether
Mhm.
you're going to affect people on their personal level, social, and then the world at large, unless you have an understanding of who the market is and how your product or brand can influence a change there, right?
Absolutely. You got it. That's that's absolutely it.
Awesome. Well, I know assemblage is out. There are a few different ways that you can get it, and I'm sure you're working on other things, and you have work that's always coming out of Ipsos. So I'd love to get an update from you and what's next, and touch on anything that we didn't touch on so far.
Yeah. Well, what's next is at Ipsos, we're doing a lot of research on research these days to understand and not just to understand, but also to quantify what makes brands successful. And as a teaser today, if you will, I will tell you that our research on research shows that brands succeed through shaping expectations, harnessing the context, and demonstrating empathy. And shaping expectations, that's the opportunity for the brand not just to meet and manage expectations, but really shape expectations for what the market should expect from the brand and the category. Harnessing context is about connecting with people in the moment, at the moment of truth, when you need it the most. And demonstrating empathy, it is this connection between the audience and the brand that needs to be genuine and authentic. So we're doing a lot of research on, again, not just bringing to light, but quantifying the impact of those three different avenues: shaping expectations, harnessing context, demonstrating empathy. That's what we're doing at Ipsos these days. As for me, as you said, Assemblage is out. By the way, it aligns very nicely with these findings on expectations, context, and empathy. Assemblage is, of course, available on Amazon. It's also available at Barnes and Nobles and other places. I feel what's important is it's available as a hardcover, but also as an ebook and also as a audible, as an audiobook. And by the way, the good news is I'm not the one reading the book. So you can listen to the book at the gym, on your commute, at 2x or 1.5x or whatever speed you like to listen to. And that is the easiest way to get all the key learning outcomes from a book for obviously very reasonable cost, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was an incredible read, and I'm so glad I got the opportunity to break it down for you today. And if our conversation interested you guys, go check it out and give it a read. Is definitely a lot of really incredible learnings that you can pull out and apply to any of the marketing that you're doing today. So thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining me. It was such a blast to have you on.
Cooper, thank you again for having me on the show. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate connecting with you and your community today. And of course, people are welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Emmanuel Probst. And if you have any questions or comments, uh, I pride myself in reading my own emails. That means do not hesitate to reach out. I'll be happy to provide you with additional information if you want to continue the conversation.